Hi, my name is Rebecca Smith, Managing Director of Safe Hands, and welcome to the Safe Hands podcast. Now, some class the beginning of November as the official countdown to Christmas, but here at Safe Hands it means something different. It marks the start of Movember, which is a movement that aims to raise awareness specifically around men's health. Included in this, we have testicular cancer, mental health, suicide prevention and awareness, and also prostate cancer. And today we're going to be predominantly focusing on the latter. Just some stats for you. So prostate cancer is the most common cancer in men after skin cancer globally, and it's also the third most common cancer here in the UAE. Now, I feel that when we talk about cancer generically, it's something that everyone can relate to, worryingly so. Because even if we haven't experienced this disease firsthand, we usually know of somebody who's gone through this. For that reason, when we were looking at guests for today's episode, we didn't have to look very far. In fact, we just reached out to the other brands under the group umbrella. We've got two of our employees that came forward to volunteer to share their experience of family members who fell ill with the disease. So joining me today, I have the Group Commercial Director of BSTG. We've got Greg Stockton. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
And we've got one of our senior wealth managers and partners from Finsbury Associates, Neil Stewart.
Hi, Bex.
Hello. Good to have you on,
Thanks
guys.
for
It's like
having me.
another day in the office.
Yeah,
it's
it's
good
perfect.
to have you on the podcast. So I just want to give, firstly, a shout out to Greg for the facial hair.
Thanks.
Looking good.
I am trying.
Yeah, looking good. Solid effort from you.
Thanks. It's not been received that well in the office, I must admit.
nonsense.
Well,
We'll keep
not
going.
from the Safe Hands
Neil
side.
was
going
going to try, but we're not
side.
convinced he can even grow any
Let's
hair
move on.
yet.
I
Well,
can't
this is
grow
what I was
any
going to
hair.
ask. Where's yours, Neil?
I have follicle issues. Let's just leave it that way. I'm not the best at growing any hair anywhere, so let's leave it there.
All right,
That
we'll leave
rhymes.
it there. Follicle issues. We'll start with that. But in all seriousness, I know evidently, just based on the fact you know you're supporting Movember, it's a cause close to your heart. So if we could just start by sort of addressing that, why was it that the both of you volunteered to be on the podcast today? If I could just start with you, Neil.
Yeah, I suppose, in simple terms, my dad, just over a year ago, actually, a year ago last week, passed away from cancer. A long fight with cancer.
Right.
Lots of ups and downs, but in the end, had 21 years with prostate cancer.
Okay.
And we'll get into more detail, but he was diagnosed when I was 18, 3 to 5 years to live. An interesting time. The family mourned. And then 21 years later was when it really, about 20 years and 6 months later is when it really hit him hard.
Wow.
So it's still quite fresh in the mind. We're all still in a place, missing dad, and mum is in a quite a dark place, I think, most of the time. And she's out for Christmas soon, which will be nice. And we'll give her a big
family
cuddle.
time.
But yeah, so I've lived through it really for all my adult life.
Okay.
Yeah.
That's incredible. So diagnosed, you said when you were 18?
I was 18. I was at uni in Newcastle. I was 3 months into uni. I came back for Christmas, Christmas Eve, so the 23rd of December. Mum and Dad sat me and my brother down in Sheffield around the dinner table and just broke the news. And it was, I don't know what the word is.
It's life-changing, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's devastating. So many people go through it as well, and that's why I think it's such an important topic today. How about you, Greg? What was the sort of reasoning behind you sort of coming forward?
Yeah, I mean, kind of similar, really. I mean, this year, I guess there's a celebration in the sense that my dad just got the all clear of prostate cancer, which is awesome. I mean, 6 years ago, we lost my mum to lymphoma.
Okay.
And you kind of think, okay, that's the end of the cancer story, and we can crack on. And then a year later, my dad got diagnosed with prostate cancer, and it's like, oh, bloody hell, here we go again.
Gosh.
But yeah, luckily over the sort of 5 years, they've managed to bring the PSA levels down to a point where he's been given the all clear. So yeah, happy news.
Happy news.
Happy
Okay.
news.
Good on him.
Extremes, one extreme to the other there, but important nevertheless. So when it comes to prostate cancer, we've got a number of risk factors. I kind of want to cover the clinical element of the disease, but I also want to sort of touch on your stories as well. I feel that when we've talked about cancer previously, and we've done so on the podcast as well, it's either been from a sort of nurse perspective, or it's been from the perspective of someone who's been through it themselves, so been affected by the disease themselves. I kind of want to hear about how it impacts the family members and the people close to those people as well. So Neil, just going back to your story, you said diagnosed when you were 18. You must have been at uni then?
Yeah, 3 months into uni. Bit of a curveball. So when my dad got 3 to 5 years left, and that was, and it just shows medical advancements. He's a strong guy, but 21 years he carried on for. I left uni in Newcastle and went back to live with my mum and dad. So if it was going to be 3 years maybe left, I didn't want to be seeing him once a month or once every 2 months or whatever that would be.
Yeah.
So I sort of changed my life and to support really my mum and see a lot of my dad and vice versa. And yeah, I think he went downhill and then recovered, and then actually probably until my working life, when I actually got into the financial services industry when I was 29, which was 11 years later, that's when it really hit him quite hard. Yeah. So I think we mourned in the early days a lot, and we discussed all sorts from, what we were going to do as a bucket list and what we were going to do in terms of, his plans for his funeral. And it was pretty crazy being able to sort of discuss those things. Because my dad's quite old. I keep saying is. Let's just say is. Let's say pretend he's still here. My dad was 49 when I came into the world, so quite old. So the scenario was we didn't have a son. I think we were discussing, weren't we? Both about 66, which is the average age that males, obviously men, they get prostate cancer. So the scenario was that we mourned and we planned. My brother was almost finishing his uni course up in Leeds, but not far away, Leeds to Sheffield. And we just planned, but he fought it, he got through it. He ended up having 4 critical illnesses during his time, and then passed away, as I say. But we sort of mourned and then we didn't, if that makes sense.
You'd gone through the journey of it.
And we mourned twice, and then probably 18 months ago when it started getting worse, we mourned again. Yeah. So sort of 2 processes of mourning, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, okay. And how about you, Greg? So what impact does that have when you're told that someone that close to you has this disease?
Yeah, it was interesting for us because we'd already gone through a year before such a big impact of losing my mum.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to say it was like a dress rehearsal, but we'd already been through that severity of sort of mourning, emotional up and down. And my dad is honestly, he's like such a chill bloke.
Yeah.
That he made us almost not worry about it, and it was actually quite a strange story to how he found out he got prostate cancer.
Okay.
So I think, most people tend to go for regular checkups for things like this, whereas my dad, like I say, he's so chilled, he doesn't bother, he thinks he's superhuman, he's never going to get any disease, and typically for my whole 37 years of existence, he hasn't. He's just been one of those guys that's always okay, apart from the hangover every now and again. But when he was coming up to retirement, as Neil said, so that's 65, 66, he had to go get a medical done to figure out annuity rates for pensions. And it was at that medical they come back and went, "You've got prostate cancer." Wow. He had no idea up until that point. So it was actually only no symptoms, no nothing. Anything. So it was only by chance they actually turned around and went, "You've got it." If he hadn't have gone for that medical,
you wouldn't know.
It could be a different story now. He might not be here. So it was interesting how he found out. But he was very chilled about it. He said, look, there are treatments that I can do, and he had treatment. And luckily over the last 5 years, that PSA level that they catch has gone down and down and down and down and down, which is awesome.
Amazing. So PSA levels are something that they routinely check when it comes to prostate cancer specifically for that. Have you guys ever had a screening for it?
Actually, there's a penny drop moment. No, not at all.
You haven't?
I'm a bit older than Greg, which probably everyone can see. And I think the number of, you're age 40, you're meant to do a proper check and get checked out every year. I've still not done that, which is not good enough. I've got all my, safety nets in place if something does happen, and, really good medical cover. Like my dad, thank God, mum and dad had really good medical cover with Westfield Health in the north of England, you might know, because we're from a similar part of the world. So luckily, because the expenses it was high, and the number of treatments was number of checkups was manageable, but it was the best facilities, and luckily that's probably why you had the best chance to get through that. But I've not, at the age of 40, done what I should, which is a full checkup. So
I think the recommendations are sort of 40 onwards if you're at higher risk, or obviously family history, go get checked. I think sort of 50 onwards is a little bit more routine if you're at average risk. 60 onwards, you should be looking to get those regular checkups done, definitely. How about you, Greg? Have you ever done it?
I have actually, yeah. So I get a regular checkup every single January.
You do?
I've done it since the age of 30. But at 30, I think it was 32, 32, 33 when Dad got diagnosed. I added prostate cancer checks onto that list as well. So I've pretty much had it done every year since I was like 32, 33.
Okay.
And I guess probably there's a stigma around those prostate checks and what's involved in them. And I think a lot of people actually don't realise it's actually just a blood test. There's none of the prodding and probing that necessarily there used to be. So yeah, every year since 32, 33. Maybe that's because I'm a bit of a hypochondriac, or maybe it's because I'm careful. I'm not sure yet.
Careful. We'll go with careful. But it is always good to do, especially if there is that family history there.
Yeah.
It's important that you noted the stigma around sort of these tests, and I think it just comes with this sort of specific cancer, doesn't it? It's not something that a lot of men talk about often, and I think that's why Movember is great, because it highlights the need to talk about it and the importance of the awareness. What would you say to people that are maybe afraid to go get that checkup done, or people that perceive there is a sort of stigma around it?
Well, from my side, clearly, even though every day I'm touching people that have, we're trying to plan, if they do get into a bad place, we can help them out. But I'm not doing it myself, so that's not good enough. And I think it's just, we've got to, maybe more education. I think the thing like this sort of thing is going to bring it to the fore. The big C is no longer something that people don't speak about. The stigma, I mean, Greg said there that it's, most things these days are just blood tests. So you should do it. And I think 32 is really cool. That's a really good effort that you started from the age of 30 and then 32 adding it on when your dad was diagnosed. But certainly from 40 onwards, that's something that people should do and not be scared of. We had our Fit for Work, didn't we, this week? And
we did, office screening.
Yeah, that's just good habits, isn't it? Getting into good habits, because you keep doing it.
Yeah, definitely. In terms of, the regular checkups, there are a number of sort of hospitals and clinics that do it sort of routinely during this month as well. Even if you don't have the insurance to cover it, there's certain sort of incentives to go. Again, important to note that people should take advantage of that. But do you find there's a sort of stigma around it, Greg? Do you think that I'm going to ask you a question, and I'm not stereotyping, but do you think that men are maybe a little bit more apprehensive to go and get these things checked out than women? And I'm only asking, it's a genuine question. Like I said,
I'm not necessarily sure it's apprehension. I just think it's just not necessarily the norm, and it's not talked about as much. I think a lot of women are very engaged with the sort of breast cancer topic and ovarian cancer, etc. So there's that conversation that happens a lot. Generally, you don't find a lot of blokes sitting around the pub chatting about the prostate.
This is what I mean, yeah.
So I think it is just about just the awareness of it, but almost understanding and recognizing that the body's the most important thing that you need to take care of. It's not just about going to the gym and looking good. It's about all your internal stuff as well. And the same way you get your car MOT'd, you should be getting your body checked every year as well. I think it's that important. And people can use the excuse of, I'm too busy, or I got too busy, or it was on the back of my mind. But the reality of it is it just needs prioritising, which is why it's always on my kind of January 1st, January 2nd to-do list, because then it's out of the way for the year. Anything after that, I've got caught up with everything else that's going on with work and family, and just life takes over. So, for me, I think it's not just about the awareness, it's then about the prioritisation around just going for that check. And it literally, I spend half an hour getting some blood tests done on the 2nd of January, and then all of a sudden I get my results back. I know my cholesterol levels, what vitamins I should be taking more of, whether I've got a high PSA level, whether I've got high white cells, blood type. It's half an hour. Yeah,
a lot of companies are doing it as well for staff members, which is part of what we do through the screening program, which is great as a sort of baseline observation. We mentioned diagnosis earlier. Greg, you said that your dad didn't have any signs and symptoms at all.
Nothing.
What about yours?
No, Dad luckily caught it very early, and it was his regular annual checkup with Westfield. I think it was actually 6 monthly checkup when he got to that age, and again they caught it quickly.
No prior signs and symptoms that he could sort of pinpoint. I think that.
Well, I don't want to get too graphic, but I think as you get a little bit older, your trips to the toilet maybe increase, which I know is sort of like
you can say it on this podcast. So
we'll leave it there. I'm sure
all of those words are well.
Everyone watching and listening understands.
Yeah.
And I think that was one thing that, looking back, he realised, I am going to the toilet a little bit more, and one or two smaller things. But I think, again, I don't know. Maybe. That was, let's work that out. That was 1997. So wow, that's a long time ago. And I think at that point, people didn't really speak about cancer at all then, or very, very little. I think today more and more, there was no Movember and not as much awareness as today, which again is is something that needs to be sort of looked at a little bit more. Yeah. But I don't think there are any symptoms. No.
Okay, interesting.
More symptoms with the other examples of cancer that my dad got, but not with the prostate.
But not with the prostate cancer. So, I mean, some of the signs and symptoms could be quite generic when you look at them. When we look at fatigue, frequent urination, maybe irritability when urinating. I'll say all the words.
Yeah,
on
you said the words.
I'll say them on your behalf.
Much more eloquent than me.
I don't
Much
mind.
more
I
eloquent.
don't mind. But they are sort of things that people could dismiss, or maybe sort of not look at as being.
And naturally, as you get older, you're going to get a bit more tired, and these sort of things. It's I guess it's just this is the norm. If you do feel a bit lethargic or so on, then.
So it brings it back to that screening, doesn't it? Make sure you have those regular checkups.
Yeah.
Things like this might not be able to be sort of pinpointed when it comes to signs and symptoms. Go get checked and take advantage of any checks that are available on your insurance or that your employer provides for you as well.
Yeah.
One last question before we sort of wrap up today. What do you hope people sort of going through a situation involving prostate cancer or any cancer would take away from the podcast today? What's the sort of urgent message here?
I think personally just take action. Again, age 30, great example of someone that's actually done that. I feel a bit inferior for not doing that. And I think as well, we live in the UAE, our audience is the UAE. Make sure that as well, even though we might not be anywhere near that average age of 66, make sure that you've got good medical cover so you can actually get a proper check in the right sort of places and do that early. And I think it's safety nets as well. I mean, it's all very well sort of saying, okay, we'll get a check in November. It's a bit more affordable. I think most people need to put their health first and check it as and when. But good medical cover will make sure that if something does happen. And there's plenty of people that procrastinate with that sort of thing. And that sadly is around every corner.
Yeah, I suppose that comes into play. God forbid, should you get diagnosed with the disease or the condition, because you need to make sure that you've got the coverage to be able to.
And there's lots of cancers. That. I mean, prostate is a little bit more common, but you're looking at 30, 40, even 50 types of critical illness and lots of examples of cancer that need to be looked at. So, get a full check. Full check. I'm going to do it now.
Yeah.
Next week, you're going to ask me. You're going to be asking, have you done it, Neil? And I will have.
We've had an impact on one person, definitely. If this goes no further, you're going to get the check, which is good. It's good.
The call to action.
How about you, Greg? Any other sort of message for anyone listening?
Yeah, look, I think we live in a world now where cancer has just become so prevalent, right? It's something like 1 in 2, 1 in 3 males and people are going to get it if you're born after 1965. And as Neil said, there's so many different variants of that cancer. It's untrue. But so I think if we all sort of accept the fact that there is a chance that at some stage we're going to get cancer, we should then take the action of let's try and catch it sooner rather than later and not just walk around aimlessly thinking I'll be okay. The good thing is with cancer nowadays, most cancers is they are treatable. People do recover quicker, faster, better than they ever have done before. So catching things early is just so important. And as a situation with my dad, had he not been for that medical, he probably wouldn't be here right now. I don't want to be in a position where I'm having to find out because those symptoms have started to take over. I want to know if I'm going to get it right. I've got it early and I can deal with it and just be calm about it, understand the options that are available, do the research on that, and then take action if needed.
Okay, perfect. So predominant message there, prevention better than the cure. Look at the preventative
Always
measures.
Good rule to follow, isn't it?
Perfect. Well, I really appreciate you guys coming on the podcast and talking about this topic. I know it's not a very cheery topic to discuss, but
it's one to your dad, mate.
It's hugely appreciate it from my side. And great news about your
Cheers,
dad.
Thanks.
And I can't wait to see the updates on the moustache. We'll post those on our social media along with the podcast. But thank you so much, guys, for joining us today.
Cheers.
So as always, if you enjoyed today's episode or found benefit in any of the content, let us know. Leave a comment, like and share. Drop us a DM if you wish. I really appreciate you for tuning in. Obviously, like we say, really hard hitting topic, but so relevant, especially for the month of Movember. Thanks for tuning in and bear with us for the next episode. Thanks, guys.